If you all for an uprising, welcome to today's show. This video originally was going to be exclusive to the website, acallforunuprising.com, but I'm going to put it on both. I'm going to risk getting a strike over it because it's the type of stuff you need to see. This is the type of stuff on the website, but this is something that everybody needs to see. And this is more proof that they do these things in advance. They run simulations, they run tests, they run drills, and then these things just miraculously occur and they shrug their shoulders and they go, well, we were preparing for it, but how come you don't have an answer for what you were preparing for? You were just preparing for it, AKA planning it. Now, Event 201 occurred and everybody figured it out, called it out, and then they had to come out and start censoring people online. That was a massive, massive thing at the beginning of the outbreak. September in 2001, on the date of the 11th, a drill was being run. Remember that? Boston, a drill was being run. A lot of these events that occur in schools, drills are being run. Coincidentally, on the same date or within the same week before these things actually occur. This is the type of stuff you can share with your friends and try to show them, oh, is that a coincidence? And I'm telling you these other events so that you can look them up yourself and you could show them this and they could say, wow, they really do plan this stuff out. And that is why they censor all of us, because we show that they do this stuff. Event 201 was the last one. Here we have this. Get a load of this from the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around and watch. The Nuclear Threat Initiative, conveniently in March 2021, and then this video, which came out in November, talking about running a drill. And I mean, you're not going to believe what it's about. Take a listen to this clip in its entirety.
We are launching a new report. We are excited to share it with you. The new report is called Strengthening Global Systems to Prevent and Respond to High Consequence Biological Threats. And it summarizes key findings from a tabletop exercise that was jointly convened by the Nuclear Threat Initiative, NTI, and the Munich Security Conference back in March 2021. I do have to begin by noting the irony of sorts in our undertaking a tabletop exercise, a simulated biological crisis involving an infectious disease agent, even as a true global pandemic was unfolding all around us. I think we all recognize how over the past almost 2 years now, the world has faced the devastating impact that a biological event can have on human health, economies, and political stability. So I'm very pleased to be able to kick off this session, first by sharing a brief video excerpt from this exercise, which provides a short preview of the fictional scenario that we discussed. Thank you.
There are growing questions today around a new and deadly outbreak. Scientists determined that this monkeypox virus was engineered. With limited antiviral drugs and no known effective treatments, countries around the world are struggling to control another pandemic with already devastating effects.
Seeing far fewer cases in countries where governments took early and decisive action.
And some international experts are urging the WHO to adopt a phased approach to warnings.
I mean, wow. What are the odds of that? Because if you haven't heard, there's something going on right now around the world.
Health officials are reporting the first potential cases of human-to-human transmission of monkeypox in America. 4 new cases were detected over the weekend, including 2 in California and 1 each in Colorado and New York. So far, 14 cases have been found in 8 states, with most of the infections among gay and bisexual men. However, the World Health Organization says anyone can get or pass on monkeypox, regardless of their sexuality. The WHO's top expert on monkeypox says she does not think it will become a pandemic, but says there are still many unknowns regarding the disease.
Boy, coincidences, right? It's just life is filled with so many of them, at least for the naive hive mind. But for the rest of us, we're well aware of what they do. Now, you might say, I've never heard of the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Well, all one has to do is look into who they are, and one can even see that they're linked and connected to the World Economic Forum. That must be a coincidence too. You know, the same people that we're all exposing over and over again. I mean, anybody who talks any truth has been exposing these people. You have 2020, that the NTI and the World Economic Forum releasing a report. What was the report on? DNA synthesis technologies. Wow, in 2020, you don't say. January 2020. Crazy, right? And then May 23rd, this past week at the World Economic Forum conference in Davos, NTI and World Economic Forum convened 3rd annual meeting of DNA synthesis screening technical consortium. Oh man, you gotta love those coincidences, right? There's nothing funny about this. I'm laughing at how stupid people are that they can't see what these people are doing. Are these the same people that go through life getting stomped on, walking around and just on cruise control? This isn't about politics and political parties. Those have been in place to put barriers up between you and your brain. Like picking a sports team. Oh, on this team, I side with them, and whatever they say, I'll do. Instead of critically thinking and saying, whoa, look at all this evidence. They run drills in advance. They conveniently tell us over a year in advance about a monkey outbreak, just like they conveniently told us in advance about a C.19er outbreak. And then all these other active drills we always see. It's almost like they plan to do this stuff. Oh, right. They do. So then people go, well, what would they want to do? Why would they want a bioweapon? Well, were bioweapons a thing in the past? Of course not. Did anyone remember reading in the 1500s how there were bioweapons? There was a lot of wars being fought back in those days, right? All the history books, it's like the War of 1812, the war here, the war there, Civil War, right? Wars, 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 chaos, chaos, chaos. Look around you now, right? You don't see actual wars going on in America. Like literally with guns and civil war, you know, people aren't walking around with swords. What you see are things being created on the television set that they're telling you are happening so that they can incite this type of stuff. But back then you didn't hear about it. So why would it change from then to now? Oh, because what they do is they create biological ones. They create psychological ones, more importantly, because everything's going on in the mind of people inside their hive mind. They're being controlled and it's filtering down, telling them what to think, knowing how they're going to react to this or that. That's why they do everything they do. That's why everybody feels overwhelmed. They're like, does a day go by when one of these events don't occur? No, it doesn't. Why? Because they plan them that way. Because by overwhelming you, it's going to cause you to submit because the mind can't take so much stuff. Even mine can't. It's overwhelming. It's draining. What do you think they do in torture when they torture people in war? They drain them to the point of submission where they give information up that they want, right? We've all seen it in a movie, the torturing them. Oh, we're going to find out what they're going to tell us, what we want to know. We're going to torture them for days and days. We're going to put them in here until they finally cave. Well, this isn't about you telling them information. This is about you caving to them. They're torturing the mind psychologically. Different stories every day that are wearing people out. More restraints. Civil rights being taken away, but really they're being given away. Our rights are being given away by us to them, the ones who are doing this to us, by telling us that this is happening and that's happening. When they create these simulations just like this, they do it over and over and over again. These people hate us. And by us, I don't mean Republicans or Democrats. I mean humanity as a whole. They created Republicans and Democrats and parties. They hate all of us. If you are gay and you listen to this channel and you hate my guts, guess what? They hate you too. They're using you right now to get people to submit their rights. And then they're going to turn on you the way that the world has turned on quote unquote conspiracy theorists who apparently had no importance and were just crazy tinfoil hat wearers. We become so important that they have to constantly talk about us over and over again. Why? Because they're afraid that you might wake up from their trap and you might realize that you're being worked and worked and worked into exhaustion so that you submit and you give up your civil liberties, that you give up your rights and you just do what they say because you want to be left alone. They know exactly what they're doing. This is a form of trauma-based mind control. The same stuff I covered all the time when I started my channel. SRA, satanic ritual abuse. That got blocked from being covered on YouTube as well. Why? Because when you start looking at the things that they do, these traumatic events that they do to children, you could start connecting that to what they do to the world as a whole now. The same types of things. Now, obviously more traumatizing for the individual child who goes through that than the entire world as a whole. Not even really comparable. But the same techniques to work people, to mold people, to engineer people. They create events like this so that you or me or anyone out there asks them to do what they want to already do, and they're already going to do it. They just want you to feel like, oh, it's the right thing to do. Because they fear an uprising. They fear society catching on. And society is catching on. They are, but unfortunately, it's not enough people. That's why they have to do things like we saw in Texas. Why? Because they want the civilians to go after the other civilians and unarm them for them. That's why. That's why. And those same people go, oh my gosh, these people want to be armed because they want to protect themselves from the government. You can't see what the government's doing? If you're a liberal person, can't you see what was going on with Trump? It's the same thing flip. It goes back and forth like a seesaw. They work you into exhaustion. They make you do their bidding for them. And then when they go, oh, these crazy conspiracy theorists think the government's going to turn on them. That's the only reason they want to be armed. So that's not a good enough excuse. Until what? Until it happens? I used that point yesterday in a video about Ukraine, right? Suddenly with Ukraine, America seemed to be very pro-gun. They were handing out weapons over there. So who's to say with this illusion of Russia that they're trying to create here, shouldn't we all use that as our defense and say, well, we all want to be armed. What if what happens in Russia happens here? But they're going to go, oh, well, we have our own military. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, right. But what if, hypothetically, our own government does this to us? What they are saying that Russia is doing to Ukraine or Russia is doing there, because they're all working together. How do we know this? They admit to being globalists. They go to these meetings together. They tell you out loud what their plan is, and they even are ballsy enough to show you their simulations in advance because they know people are so stupid that they could put out articles like this story I'm covering here. Articles came out in the last week, New York Post, Newsweek. Oh, that's being debunked. It's being debunked how? This woman just coincidentally, this group, the NTI, just coincidentally, who meets with the World Economic Forum, just coincidentally met with them before the outbreak in January of 2020, before it hit America. Just coincidentally is talking about the latest outbreak here in a simulation where they even have a commercial made that somebody paid for. Our tax money, of course. Sigil magic happening in front of you. That's part of what this is. They show you in advance and then they do it to you. It's a part of how black magic works. People don't believe in that stuff because they're naive, because they see it in movies, so they think it's fictional, and the movies are telling you what's really going to happen and what's going on, and the news is nothing but fiction. Use your own eyes. Go out into the real world and tell me where you see the things in the news happening. Anybody go out in the last 2 years and see people falling on the floors in the grocery? Anybody been to a hospital in the last 2 years? I have. Didn't look too filled. Oh, well, maybe you're not in the right place. Nah. Saw plenty of videos that plenty of people filmed in cities like New York. Couldn't have been quieter. Huh. Of course, that didn't fit the narrative, so that stuff gets taken down. And you're labeled disinformation because you see what's going on. And if you see what's going on, that's how you're going to be labeled. Now, this